worries me most about climate change is not only what's going on currently and the environment that and the situations we've currently got, but also the legacy that we leave future generations. I know I was lucky enough to grow up watching David Attenborough and Blue Planet and all the great shows like that, where I got to learn about conservation and the environment, and was inspired to travel, and I really hope to still travel some more, but for those future generations that might not be able to explore and learn our current environment, and actually for them it would more be in the past tense.
What worries me most about climate change is the fact there are constant rising maximum temperatures, constant rising minimal temperatures. What we don't realise is a small change in global temperature means that flooding and drought becomes a lot more common. Someone like myself who comes from Bangladesh, a lot of people come from BAME countries, right? Water is already scarce. Global warming and climate change can mean that people from our countries are struggling to get even more water, and the scarcity of water issue becomes a lot more vast.
What worries me most about climate change is, I think, particularly the rising sea levels. That's actually having a very short-term impact on the ability for nature, but also for people to have proper grounds to live on, especially with the reducing habitat across the globe, and ultimately long-term having no land whatsoever to live on.
What I am doing in Tower Hamlets with Wapping Football Club and AIP Group is simply educating our young people. We are delivering environmental community projects, environmental leadership programs for our young people to come on board, right? Educate themselves, gain as much knowledge, gain as much experience, and go out there and deliver environmental projects. We need to empower our young people, educate our young people, and make sure that they are the leaders for climate change for years to come.
What I try to address regarding climate change in Tower Hamlets, I think there's a couple of areas, and I think the first point is particularly around waste management. I think during the last 12 months in lockdown, I've realised how much you actually consume in that period, and just being in the same spot basically for a ongoing period. And I think particularly food waste. So it's looking for different types of solutions in terms of what you can still do to minimize that, but also how to be more clever around the food waste that you produce.
So there's a couple of things that I'm doing to try and help address climate change at home in Tower Hamlets. Some things are from my home, trying to recycle, and also planting things in my garden to attract wildlife and bees. Some successfully, some not so. But yeah, trying to build the environment that I want to see around.
My message to the ones in power to think about what we can do for climate change is mainly trying to find a balance between economy and ecology.
I think my message to those in power would be to not only think of the short-term solutions, such as removing single-use plastic, but actually long-term solutions that help all communities and that empower communities to make these decisions themselves. And I think that requires incentives, and it quite frankly requires money and investment into long-term solutions to address climate change.
For me, those in power need to really educate our young people. Growing up, there wasn't much about global warming, there wasn't much about climate change. You have to educate yourself almost. You see stuff in the news which you don't really take much notice of, because you don't really understand the whole kind of issue. So for those in power, start firstly by educating our young people about what climate change is and how it will affect us in the future. Secondly, put some laws in place where every common household in the UK needs to invest in some sort of climate change technology that would help us become a bit more efficient in terms of saving energy and saving our resources.